Yeah, so I'm Casper, and I should probably state that I'm an open source kind of consultant and project manager, so I'm not completely against open source, right? So this is a follow-up to a talk I gave last time, and I know the title sounds scary, but well, it is actually, but not for the reason you think. So some prerequisite knowledge: software licenses are not automatically legally binding. By that I mean it doesn't matter how many lawyers or NGOs produced a free and open source software license, a FOSS license. It's not really legally binding unless Parliament or a court of law says so. So FOSS licenses often have a no warranty clause, but this hasn't been tested in court, and even other clauses are rarely tested. So there's an ongoing case against GitHub and Microsoft and OpenAI for ignoring licenses when acquiring training data. So cases similar to that are rare because they only target the extremely small fraction of license infringers, the ones who make lots of money. And as an aside, laws have to be enforceable. So suing just a few companies while ignoring the millions of smaller infringements is expressly the opposite of what the law is meant to do. It's not meant to be selectively applied. So I think the underlying problem here is that laws can't address both fraud and indecency, let's say. It's too broad in scope. You can't address both crime and rudeness, for want of a better word. So this leads me to the talk I gave a couple of months ago, which was effectively lamenting the lack of warranties in FOSS, causing a host of problems. From individual frustrated maintainers unpublishing a package and breaking the entire internet, down to software just being low quality and not fit for purpose. You could argue that this is the same problem in closed source with lack of quality, but I would argue that the difference is there's usually more legal accountability via warranties with closed source software. So the conclusion from that talk was that FOSS can continue to mean non-paying users, but it doesn't have to mean unpaid developers. I was proposing governments and NGOs should fund warranties and support contracts for critical FOSS infrastructure. But I think we actually have a critical and chronic problem in Python in particular, because we have organizations like NumFocus, which does great work, but it only focuses on scientific software, which is a tiny fraction of all software, I'm sorry to say. We have the PSF, the Python Software Foundation. They fund events and communities like this as well, which is great. But again, they don't focus on software quality. So I'm not trying to detract from the great work of these organizations. I'm just pointing out that there's a massive hole. There's an elephant in the room, a gap that maybe governments could fill, because obviously everybody loves governments. So on that note, the EU proposed the CRA and PLA in September last year. These are two acts aimed at holding profiteering companies accountable, specifically in two areas, consumer interests as well as product safety and liability. And they effectively forbid profit-making companies from hiding behind the no warranty clause. They're not yet enacted, so they're still consulting with literally hundreds of companies and NGOs and interested parties on both sides of the argument. But more interestingly, a few months ago, the PSF issued a statement in opposition, which I thought was a bit counterintuitive, because surely the PSF should be happy with the law restricting profiteering companies. So let's delve into the details. So there's different types of software. On the extreme left, you have genuinely free and open source software. And then there's what I would like to call strategically free software. So maybe you give something away for free, but it's a marketing tactic because you're trying to raise awareness of the related paid software products that integrate well with the free software. Then, of course, you have explicitly paid software, which you can further subcategorize into whether or not it's open source and the code is released. And notice monetary value increases to the right of that diagram, right? So currently, only the far right, the black box software, if you like, comes with a warranty because the end user can't really audit the code. And even if it comes with a no warranty clause, if it actually gets to court, that clause will likely be thrown out and disregarded. So the proposal with the EU recently is that anything of even indirect monetary value should also come with a warranty, right? So we're moving that bar a little bit. So the concerns with this is, well, okay, firstly, can a profiteering company selling bad software claim that all of its bugs are actually with some FOSS sub-package, so go and sue that independent maintainer instead, right? We're not responsible. Also, secondly, what does indirect monetary gain mean? You could argue that, all of us independent FOSS developers are, in a way, self-promoting. It's indirectly helping our career by releasing FOSS. So does this mean you can now sue everyone with just a software hobby? So I have counter-arguments to the counter-arguments as well. Firstly, it seems a bit like us FOSS devs are fighting on behalf of the worst offending profiteering companies, which is a bit odd. Perhaps with some measure of arrogance or maybe stupidity, I don't know. So just because we can understand English doesn't mean we can understand the legal jargon which happens to be written in English. So I actually went and consulted with an intellectual property lawyer, and after that I realized the proposed laws are actually pretty good. I don't think they can be abused to harm independent FOSS developers. I think maybe most modern debates rely on social media sensationalism and misunderstanding jargon. Maybe it's the same case here, I don't know. So if there's any minor improvement to be had, maybe we could expressly exclude indie packages from these laws. Right now, I think they're only implicitly excluded. Particularly controversial opinion, though, I do think somebody should be held legally accountable if Python or PyPy breaks. It is critical infrastructure, lives depend on it, and if the PSF isn't paid enough to provide a warranty, well, great, the EU should fund it. Anyway, yeah, I'm Casper. My email's on my GitHub and website. Always happy to have a chat. Thanks for listening.